Greetings and welcome back to Dream Central Station, where we facilitate holistic personal growth through wisdom, inspiration, spirituality, education, and action so that we can maximize our potential and live our deliberately realized end achieved methodically. If you haven't done so already, I would kindly ask that you would subscribe. And if you deem this video like, share, and comment worthy, that you would like, share, and comment on the content. So today's message is really near and dear to my heart. It's all about that action, boss. I think about the Super Bowl when the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks came together in great competition. And you had the week leading up into the Super Bowl, and you had a notable figure, otherwise known as Mr. Beast Mode himself, Marshawn Lynch. I'm thinking about the interview that he had with Deion Sanders, where Deion was asking him, why aren't you commenting? Why aren't you spending a lot of time with the media? Why is it that everything that you say is a one-word answer? And in that limited interview, Beast Mode said to Prime, he said, hey, man, all my life, it's always been about that action. He said, talking and using words and all that other stuff at the end of the day, it doesn't get you to where you want to be. So he said, rather than speaking and saying a whole bunch of things leading up to the big game, will do my speaking when I strap on the helmet and shoulder pads and I buckle my chin strap. I'll do my speaking on the football field. I'm all about that action, boss. And that, Mr. Beast Mode himself, is what everybody has come to know and love him for, in addition to his prowess in carrying that football on the football field. So without any further delay, we're going to get into that action, boss. Shout out to Mr. Beast Mode himself. And as we talk about this episode action here at Dream Central Station. So one of the things that I am reminded of is when I was younger, I was thinking about, I would go to my cousin's house and I would ask her, hey, can I jump in your car? Now, when I say younger, I mean like 6, 7 years old, jump into the car, no keys, no driver's license, just pure imagination. I'll be in that car and I would get in the driver's seat. And of course, the steering wheel was locked and I wouldn't do my part to manipulate the steering column or anything like that. So safety first. But I get behind the wheel of that car and I would pretend to go places. I would ask my smaller cousin, her daughter, like, hey, where do you want to go? You want to go to McDonald's? So we go to McDonald's, right? In our imagination. And it'd be like, all right. So I would drive and put on the brakes and then we go through the drive-through. I'd roll the window down. Y'all remember that? I'd roll the window down and I would, hey, what you want, cuz? And then she would give me her order and I would order it in my imagination and they would give us the order. We go through the whole scene. And then we come back to the car. And after a while, maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes later, we would leave the car and go to another activity. It was fun as a child using my imagination to go through the drive-through, using my imagination in that parked car to take me places. However, if I really got hungry in real life, would I have been able to get food to eat? No, I would not have been able to eat food from my imagination. So sometimes us dreamers have an indictment out there. Like we could be so creative and philosophical and thought and big idea minded that we neglect to put in the action to make things happen. So I was thinking about that and the quote came to mind and I don't know who said it first, so I can't give them credit, but you can't steer a parked car. Can you imagine being a grown adult, wanting to go places in life, wanting to put forth direction, wanting to gain momentum, but you're not moving in any direction? You can't steer a parked car. So what is action? Let's go into the definition. Wisdom, inspiration, spirituality, education, and action. Action is the fact or process of doing something. The fact or process of doing something. We're about that action, boss. In order to make our dreams a reality, yes, we do have to have good planning, but we also have to have the hard work that goes along with that. Proverbs 21:5 in the New Living Translation. Now I'm going to quote somebody who's famous throughout American history, Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said, he that doeth the thing haveth the power. He that doeth not the thing haveth not the power. So we're thinking about it in terms of applied knowledge is power. You ever heard the term knowledge is power? Well, that's not all true. That statement is not true in its entirety. It's not what you know, but it's what you exercise, what you do with what you know. Applied knowledge is power. I'm talking about that action, boss. King David in his Psalm, chapter 1, right out the gate, all the chapters in Psalms, the first chapter rings out. He said, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord. And on this law doth he meditate day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that yields its fruit in due season. Whatsoever he doeth shall prosper." And I'll stop right there. Again, the gentleman is abstaining from walking in the counsel of the ungodly. He's not standing in the way of sinners or sitting in the seat of the scornful. That is a activity. I'm neglecting intentionally. I'm being intentional to not be around certain people. I'm being intentional to select my family and friend groups that I fellowship and spend time with. I'm going to neglect to spend time with negative influences, but I'm going to delight myself in the law of the Lord. That's a mind thing, right? And on this law, I'll meditate day and night, and I'll be like a tree that flourishes in any season, all weather tree. Whatever I set my hand to, whatever I do will prosper. We're going back to action, what you do. So remember a few episodes back, I was talking about your thoughts determine your actions. Actions become a habit. Without actions, you get nothing done. It sounds very simple. However, it's so simple that it has escaped many of us. So we're going to delve further into action and action quotes. But remember, it's not just what you know, it's what you do with what you know that really matters. That is what yields physical results in this material world. So then we go into King David had a son, right? He's not Father Abraham, but he did have sons. One of his sons, King David, was Solomon, my favorite wise person. And Solomon said in Proverbs chapter 14, verse 23, that work brings profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. Again, dreamers, one of the biggest indictments against our community is that we spend a lot of time in that dreamy space, in that imaginary space. We'll think about diet and exercise and spending time in the fitness manuals and researching and that kind of stuff. We'll talk about it. We'll think about it. We'll have great conversations at dinner parties when we're eating bad and neglecting to do the things that get the results that we want. How many times have we been the person or been around people who are fitna or talking about what they're about to do? I'm fitna, I'm about to, right? Warm it up, Chris. I'm about to. Well, that's what I was born to do. My point is, a lot of us dreamers sometimes escape into the philosophical dream world and we stay there for too long. Now, you know, I'm a big fan of having a dream and a vision in that spiritual realm, but I'm also a fan of having goals and plans. And then once you put all those elements together, you have to get into that action, boss, to bring that stuff into fruition. It's activity over time that makes the difference. So now we go into, what did Jesus say? Or actually Mary, Mother Mary, the mother of Jesus, right? She actually said in John chapter 2, verse 5, before Jesus turned water into wine, which is recorded in history, biblical history, as his first miracle, she said to the servants, "Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it." Again, there's the doing. And this is where I kind of get to take a little pause for a second. An observation of action. I want you to think about folks that are a part of their own rescue. Think about every miracle that has happened on behalf of somebody else. Think about every answered prayer. Think about how people are involved in their testimony. And then I want you to think about people who do not see the manifestation of their prayers. People who go on dreaming, but their dreams remain unrealized. Ask a question. What do they have in common? What you will find is the dreamer who brings things into this material realm, the dreamer who manifests things. They are a part of their own rescue. I think about how We think I was watching the movie The Pursuit of Happiness of Will Smith and his son, and they were telling a story about a man who prayed and asked God for rescue. There was a terrible flood happening, and the man was sitting on his roof, and he was waiting for someone to come along and rescue him. So at first, somebody in a raft came by, and he was like, "Hey man, I want to come rescue you," and everything else. And the gentleman's like, "No, don't come rescue me. I prayed and God's going to provide for me. He's going to bring something to deliver me." And the guy in the raft said, "Suit yourself, buddy." And he rides off. Then a helicopter shows up as the water continues to rise on the man that's on the roof. And then, the helicopter comes and they're like, "Hey, buddy, you need to grab onto the rope." And he's like, "No, thanks. God is going to rescue me. He's going to make it happen." And then the helicopter says, "All right, buddy, suit yourself." Then the helicopter flies away. And then we finally get to a point where, say there's a hot air balloon that comes by. You'll get the gist of the story. Hot air balloon comes, the water is up to the man's mouth, and they're like, "Hey, why don't you grab on to the rope? I'll pull you into the basket and you can fly on over to safety." And the gentleman's like, "No, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I pray and ask God is going to deliver me from this." And then eventually the man drowns. Hot air balloon goes away. The man drowns. He goes into heaven. And he's like, "Hey, Lord, I'm grateful to be here in the pearly gates and walking the streets of gold. But why is it that you never came to rescue me?" And then the Lord says back to the man, "Hey, man, I sent the dude in the raft. I sent the helicopter. I sent the hot air balloon, right? Hey, even before that, I gave you common sense. The mayor, the governor told you it was a state of emergency. You need to evacuate, get out of there. But you didn't listen to any of that stuff, right?" Oftentimes, people in the dreaming community, even in the faith community, they're waiting for God to do something when in fact they have the ability to do the things themselves. So, in that regard, I would tell you, don't wait for opportunities that you could create yourself. All right. So now, whatever he says unto you, do it. And that brings me to the Bible. When we talk about James, and I think about James chapter 1, verse 22, it encourages us to be doers of the word of God. When you find God's instruction, do what his word says. I know sometimes we can be fault finding with the word and talk about what it doesn't say and how it doesn't give you explicit instructions in certain areas. Well, that's okay. You'll figure out what to do as you do what it says. Do what you know, do the instruction, and you'll find your way. You'll figure out what to do as you continue to live and grow in that instruction. That's how that works. And then I think about James chapter 2, verse 17, that says, "As the body without the spirit is dead, so is faith without works." Okay, major key alert. Let's think about this. I know a lot of times people confuse and conflate faith with belief. A lot of times I hear people using them interchangeably. And I blame some of that on the English language. But in short, biblical faith in Hebrews chapter 11 is acting on what God said. So if I told you, get your best suit on, get a pair of shoes, we're going to go to the bank and we're going to get $1,000,000. We have a wealthy family member and they're going to distribute funds. And I gave you the address and a time to be there. If you had faith in what I said, you would get dressed according to my instructions. You would meet me at that designated place and you would be in full expectation to receive that $1,000,000, whether it be through wire transfer, whether it be through a big couple bags filled with money, whether it be in gold bullion or Bitcoin or what have you. Faith, in essence, is acting on what you heard. Faith is acting on what you believe. And it doesn't necessarily have to all be the word of God. If you have faith in the dream process, then you will have wrote down a dream, written down a vivid description of your future, your vision. Write down goals that are relevant, that tie you back into that vision. And then you set your plans to achieve those goals. Your faith in operation to fulfill your dream, to realize your deliberately realized end, achieved methodically, will cause you to work the plan and achieve the goals. You achieve the goals, you realize the vision. You realize the vision, you're living your dream. Faith in that process looks exactly like that as you walk the dog, so to speak, or you go through the numbers of the dream, vision, goal, plan, progression. All right. So then I think about that. One thing that we always want to do is be about that action. Do it. Whatever he says unto you, do it. Even in a practical sense, if we're not talking about Christendom and the Word of God, we're talking about you in your everyday life, us and what we'd like to accomplish before we take our final breath and they lay us to rest. We're talking about those things that we endeavor to achieve in our lives. If that's what we want to do, if those are the things we'd like to accomplish, we have to do it. All right. I sound like Nike. I'm hearing that. Just do it. Just do it. Do what? Work your plan, achieve your goals, realize your vision, live your dream. Do it. All right. So then we go into the enemies to action. Now, there are two blatant enemies that stand out in my mind. And the first one I'd like to discuss is procrastination. I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said, don't put off for tomorrow that in which you could do today. Well, procrastination is just the opposite. It's putting off for tomorrow those things that you could do today, that you could do right now. Now, I'm reminiscing about a CD that someone sent me a long time ago. And there's a billionaire that goes around the world and he speaks to people on achieving mastery over procrastination. He says that's the first major law of success. Achieve mastery over procrastination. Well, how do you do that? Do it now, do it now, do it now. He said, I'll give you 3 things to achieve mastery over procrastination. And you're like, what are the 3 things? Do it now, do it now, do it now. Can't put more emphasis on doing what you know to do to get what you'd like to receive in your life. Do everything you know to do. So that's the first thing. That's how you overcome that enemy of procrastination. Not to give too much to procrastination, too much glory, too much credit, too much airways or airplay for procrastination. But have you ever procrastinated? Does that make you feel better? I'm just asking. Because some people in their right mind are like, hey, I'm going to wait until the last minute to start my stuff because I do my best work under the gun. I do my best work under pressure. Some people are like that. And then you have others on the opposite end of the spectrum. The minute they find out about something, immediately they go into doing it. All right. I think I'm more along the lines of I'd like to get it done now before I eat, before I do anything fun, before I do anything pleasurable. I'd like to get the work done up front. So then it's not looming in the back of my mind on the back burner on a simmer. It's actually being done. So I try to advance that. But just a poll out there thinking about, do you wait to the last minute or do you front load activities and get as much done as possible up front so then you can enjoy the rest? All right. I just think about that. All right. Procrastination. So there's a term and I didn't make this term up, but they say eat the frog. Eat the frog in the morning. To achieve mastery over procrastination, eat that frog. And what happens if you have 2 frogs? You eat the ugly one first. What are they referring to? Eating the frog refers to achieving mastery over procrastination. Doing that thing that you would otherwise avoid, you do that up front. And when you do that, you have a tendency to be able to enjoy the rest of your activities. So if you have something in your day scheduled for tomorrow, let's say it's exercise, and you got cardio day and you really don't like cardio, then you definitely want to do that up front at first in your day. Why? Because if you wait till the end of the day and you continue to put it off, you may not get to it after you've been to work, after you've taken care of the kids, after you've cooked dinner for the family or whatever the case may be. So eat the frog first. And if you have 2 frogs, let's just say you got cardio session in the morning, and then you have a paper that you might need to do, or you have to study for an exam, or you have to read a set amount of chapters before you can participate in a group discussion at your job, and you really don't feel like doing it, then you would eat the ugly frog first and then come back for the second frog. All right. And then whoever made that up, I have an adaptation to that, and I've been saying it for a while. And this is shout out to my mom. I really appreciate you for this. Eat your vegetables. Eat your vegetables first. I think about a three-course meal. So let's just say we're having pork chops with macaroni and cheese and broccoli. And everybody's least favorite thing is broccoli, whether it be steamed, whether it be raw. And I'm talking about broccoli without ranch. I'm talking about healthy broccoli, right? Rather than me eating the pork chop and the macaroni and cheese first, I'm going to attack the broccoli. Why? Same principle as eating the ugly frog first or eating the frog first. I'm going to do that thing that I really didn't want to do up front because now the rest is gravy. The rest might as well be dessert because I like the pork chops and I like the macaroni and cheese. Anybody getting hungry? All right. Don't even get me started on dessert. So before you go out and start your day haphazardly, intentionally go after that thing that seems to give you the most resistance, that thing that is the most challenging, that thing that you would otherwise put off because you don't really feel like doing it. Do that first. Then you'll have all your energies and resources brought to bear so that you can actually be a force against that thing and blow it out the water. And then you'll have momentum for the rest of your day and confidence. All right. So then the second thing, enemy to action, is laziness. Laziness. So you got procrastination. And I think if you want to really get philosophical, you could say that they're cousins, they're relatives somehow, procrastination and laziness. Laziness is defined as flat out unwilling to work or use energy. Unwilling to work or use energy. So I'm going to talk about Proverbs. We're going to go back into Solomon, the wisest man to ever live, and read a passage about 4 verses. And it talks about lazy people. Proverbs chapter 24, verses 30 through 34. He said, I went past the field of a sluggard, past the vineyard of someone who has no sense. Thorns had come up everywhere. The ground was covered with weeds, and the stone wall was in ruins. I applied my heart to what I observed and learned a lesson from what I saw. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief and scarcity like an armed man. I'm thinking about when we are unwilling to work or use energy in whatever area, that area tends to become overgrown with figurative weeds and thorns and thistles and the things that would reduce our harvest in the end, things that would hinder or constrict our growth. So that's just an incentive to not be lazy, to do it now, to be willing to bust your gun to get it, to expend that energy that you know you need to expend in whatever area it is, because whatever it is that you want, you have to be willing to do something about it. And then I'll bring this to an end with Mary Kay Ash. And she said there's 3 types of people. All right. She said there's those people who wonder what happened. There are those people who watch things happen. And then there are people who make it happen. And I'll leave you with that quote because the magic in life is in doing. The magic in realizing a dream is in doing. The vision, the goal, the plan, that gives you focus. It gives you direction. But when you get that stuff aligned, it's time for you to pin your ears back, observe faith over fear, and go. Do it. Go for it and adjust on the move. So the magic in life is in doing. And if we want to live our dream, we have to get out there and do it, whatever it is. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you. Remember, if you deem this content like, share, and comment worthy, be sure to like, share, and comment. I'll see you again real soon.